I didn't get the job. But he's been in football a long time. Years experience as a sporting director at Bournemouth from League One right the way through to the Premier League. And Arne Slot, an experienced head coach as well. So you've got people that are all on the same page. Liverpool are incredibly well run. They're very targeted with the business they want to do. Yes, they didn't do anything last summer, but they knew that what they had in the building was a good benchmark to go from. They knew that Jurgen Klopp had left a successful squad, lots of talented youngsters, and some real quality at the highest level there. They've just allowed that to develop. Now they've got a real idea about where they can improve, and that's exactly what they've done at the start of this window.
How differently life could have turned out if you've got the job at Portsmouth, eh?
I might not be sat here.
But Liverpool. You won't be, will you? Well, listen, earlier on we got a bit more on adverts. We spoke to the European football expert, Kevin Hatchard, and he told us that Liverpool fans can expect a player who can deal with the pressure of what is such a huge transfer fee.
Yeah, I do think he can deal with the pressure because he's dealt with that kind of expectation since he burst onto the scene. He was seen as a rising star in German football and he started delivering pretty much from the get-go. He became the youngest ever scorer in Bundesliga history at the time when he scored at 17 against Bayern, so already rising to the big occasion. When he was pushing for Bayer Leverkusen's first ever Bundesliga title, he delivered. I mean, that goal against Werder Bremen was part of a hat-trick, his first ever senior hat-trick. And that was the game that clinched the title for Bayer Leverkusen. So when the pressure's on, he tends to deliver, he tends to step up. So there's nothing in his history that would suggest that he'd be really worried or nervous about making this move.
Yeah, he can handle the pressure. That sounds good, I'm sure, to Liverpool fans. We've taken a closer look at what Liverpool are getting in Florian Wirtz, Mark, and his attributes and this.
Well, they can expect a player right at the top of his game. He may only be 22 years old, but there's no question that he has so much to offer Liverpool. When you look at the numbers, they really do stack up at the moment. And this looks like a lot of data and information right there, and it is. But the important thing to point out is that this is accumulated across the top 5 European leagues in the world. So when you look at the Bundesliga, La Liga, Serie A, and the Premier League, these are all numbers that are brought together. And when you see a high percentage, 99%, 98%, he is right up there. So the numbers stack up. And you just have to look at the situation when it comes to assists. He's in the top 1% in the top 5 leagues in Europe. The same with passes completed, take-ons completed, touches. And then, of course, position 1 in the final third. His numbers are some of the very best. And that's one of the reasons why Liverpool have gone and spent in excess of £100 million on Florian Wirtz. They were losing a massive player in Trent Alexander-Arnold, someone that was hugely creative, but he did it from right back. They've now got a more orthodox creative force, someone that can play as an 8, someone that can play as a 10, someone that can also play out wide as well. So he brings a real versatility. But it's those numbers, and we know that Liverpool have a data-based model when it comes to recruiting players, as well as going out and scouring the world. They do use data in their systems, and Florian Wirtz ticked all of those boxes. They've got someone who has good numbers, got good potential, fills the gap that they currently have, and I think it's his technical ability, his vision, his creativity. Those are the key things that Richard Hughes would have identified as to this is the man we need. This is someone that can really change the dynamic of our attack, because Liverpool are going to play a large number of games. They're also going to play in cup competitions, and they're probably going to go deep into a lot of these cup competitions. They're going to need a vast array of talent. He will fit in without question to that attack. I cannot wait to see him. And you just have to listen to some of those Bundesliga experts. We heard from Kevin Hatchard there. We've spoken to Florian Plettenberg from Sky Germany. Every single person talks about this man glowingly. They clearly feel he's got so much to offer. And I think he will, without question, be one of the leading forces, not just at Liverpool, but in European football for many years to come. And I think that's where Liverpool have put their money, and they've just gone, this is the right man. When you look at the statistics there, obviously the Liverpool players he's going to be compared to now, Jules.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, look at these attackers they've already got. You know, it's a title-winning side, and you know, we know about the ability of all these players. So you talk about him being adaptable, and you're sure he will fit in, but do Liverpool have to change to accommodate him?
I think Liverpool will certainly have a plan in place. You don't spend 100+ million on one player for him to be shoehorned into a setup. You're going to bring him in and go, right, how can we get the best out of you? We need to redesign our attacking force because you are going to be a key part of it. You know what Mo Salah does? Hangs out on the right-hand side, wants to cut in field, wants to score goals, can do all the things that you want. He's one of those dynamic players that will bring that Liverpool attack to life. But this will just add a different dynamic. And I think that's where he'll be so intriguing as to what he'll bring. They've obviously watched a number of players. They've looked at various options. And without question, he was the best. And a lot of people say, well, this is just Liverpool chucking loads of money at a player that may or may not be very good. Well, the data certainly suggests he's the real deal. Liverpool don't very often go and spend huge chunks of money on one player, but it is something that they have done in the past. When they recognise someone that is going to completely transform that team, they'll go and get him regardless of the price. You saw it with Virgil van Dijk, £75 million. You saw it with the goalkeeper, Alisson, £70+ million. At the time, those were expensive deals. They were big money transfers, but Liverpool backed the head coach, backed their recruitment team and said, right, that person is going to completely improve what we do in that particular area of the pitch. And this is very similar. Obviously, since Virgil and Alisson were signed, the finances have changed and they've got bigger. So therefore, it looks like an eye-watering sum of money, but actually it's in keeping with what FSG have done in the past. They find the right player, he's going to improve the team, let's go and get him.
And getting it done quickly as well, as we told you. Medical due on Friday, so we'll keep a very close eye on Florian Wirtz becoming a Liverpool player. Mark, thanks very much indeed. Still to come, Chelsea's Enzo Maresca will definitely be in the market for more players this summer, but where does he need to strengthen?
For sure something is going to happen, and we said it many times, when the window transfer is open, anything can happen.
Where will Marcus Rashford be playing come the end of the window? We'll be assessing his options this hour. And the first signing of the Thomas Frank era at Spurs has been completed as Matthias Tel signs on a permanent deal. But how much will that impact Frank's own transfer plans? That's all to come, but now let's focus on the man who has dominated much of the early transfer talk this summer. That is Bryan Mbeumo. Will he be following Thomas Frank out of Brentford? And if so, will it be to Spurs or will it be to Manchester United? He spoke to the player yesterday, and you'll have seen that with us, I'm sure. Wasn't giving too much away, was he? Let's, before we come to the Spurs angle on this, get the Manchester United perspective with you, Mark. Been with him for some time. They've got competition from Tottenham Hotspur. How confident are they of getting their man?
Well, Manchester United will be supremely confident of getting a player that they've identified as someone that can massively improve that attack at Old Trafford. We know that they're relaxed about their pursuit of Bryan Mbeumo. In fact, really, he had turned down other Premier League sides to get to the point where Manchester United were lodging bids for Bryan Mbeumo. Their first offer was rejected, which we understand to be around £55 million. But they know that Bryan Mbeumo has effectively chosen Manchester United. Now, we say effectively, that was at the point maybe a week, 10 days ago, when there were the teams at the table and he said, right, thanks very much for everyone's interest, but I've decided to go to Manchester United. I know Michael is going to interrupt me in a minute and say, hang on a second, things have changed at one North London club in the last few days, and therefore could that change the destination of Bryan Mbeumo? He has 1 year left on his Brentford contract, but the club do have an additional year, so therefore it's effectively a 2-year deal that would get Bryan Mbeumo out of his contract. We know that there is interest, and we know that Brentford want around £60+ million for the wide man who's been there since 2019. His numbers stack up, very consistent with what he does, brilliant relationships with every single person he's been at Brentford. Ivan Toney, Said Benrahma, Ollie Watkins. He's been a consistent force there, but has his Brentford days come to an end?
And if they have, it seems to point to Manchester United then. But, Michael, Thomas Frank's arrival at Spurs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there have been discussions throughout the last week to 10 days, Brentford and Tottenham Hotspur, very amicable discussions. Thomas Frank, coaching staff, and initial discussions over Bryan Mbeumo. I think for Brentford, it's getting the deal they want, is it? I don't think they're necessarily interested on the club he eventually joins. There's Antoine Semenyo Spurs are looking at as well, and there's a number of players around Europe Spurs are looking at in those attacking positions. I think for Mbeumo, what I understand is there's is quite intrigued by a potential prospect of reuniting with Thomas Frank. For me personally, I still think it does lean towards Manchester United. Gone are the days about they want to play in the Champions League, they want to play in Europe. It's still Manchester United at the end of the day. But what Tottenham do have on their side is one, yes, they've got Champions League football and a manager he knows ever so well in Thomas Frank. So it's very much a wait and see. It's an intriguing one, but he potentially does have a decision.
And does the arrival of Matthias Tel affect a potential deal in any way?
Nothing to do with it whatsoever. Right. Matthias Tel was always going to stay. But even, I mean, Ange Postecoglou said to me in a press conference that I've signed him for the long term. Unfortunately, Ange won't be there, but it will be Thomas Frank. But Tel's 19, he's still very young. Now, when Spurs signed Matthias Tel on loan, it was with an option to buy him permanently. Spurs have brought that fee down. That's what Spurs have done. But my understanding was it was always going to be a permanent. And also, Thomas Frank has given the thumbs up on this deal. So that's an exciting one in itself. But Tottenham's transfer plans going forward have no bearing on the permanent sign of Matthias Tel.
I don't want to go away too much from the agenda, but Thomas Frank's record for developing players and improving players is sensational. You know, he worked with the Denmark under 16s, 18s. He's been around working with young players, and as obviously you just have to look at the roll call of honour of Brentford players that have all improved under him. I think he'll have a fascinating role in what they do over the course of this summer, and I think the recruitment will be one to watch.
So we'll see where Mbeumo maybe ends up, whether it be Brentford, Manchester United or Tottenham. Speaking of United, strikers, big talking point at Old Trafford this summer. We'll talk about Viktor Gyökeres in a moment, but let's start with Hugo Ekitike with you, Mark. Is he an option for Amorim?
He's certainly a player of interest for Manchester United. Obviously, they're exploring the market at the moment. They're looking to try and recruit a number 9. A lot of Manchester United fans will say, well, hang on a sec, what about Xerxes? What about Rasmus Højlund? We know there has been links, according to Sky in Italy, with a return to Italy and Inter Milan for Højlund. As far as questions, we understand that personal terms are not likely to be an issue for Hugo Ekitike. The price may be, though. Eintracht Frankfurt have said they want around 100 million euros for the youngster, someone who nearly joined the Premier League a couple of seasons ago because Newcastle are very much interested, and we know how good Newcastle's recruitment has been over the last couple of years. So if you've got a team like Newcastle watching a young player, clearly means there's something there, but not the only striker. And I think that's the key thing to point out here, is Manchester United have not put all their eggs in one basket. They're saying, well, there's one player that we like, and we've opened dialogue. However, no bid yet, and that's always key.
And Viktor Gyökeres, another one, of course, strongly linked with Manchester United. Let's get a transfer update from Chelsea now, because I think, Michael, you've got something for us?
Yeah, it's something, we've heard from Enzo Maresca and Chelsea wanting potential wingers in ahead of the new season. They've made initial contact with Lyon for winger Malik Fofana, first reported by David Ornstein. They're looking at signing a winger in the summer. We know that they want to sign Jamie Gittins from Dortmund before the Club World Cup. They wanted to do that, but Fofana is 20 and has a contract until 2028 with Lyon. So we know Enzo Maresca's been very honest in what they want to bring in. He came off the bench and impressed against Manchester United for Lyon in the Europa League. So that's one to keep an eye on there. So we know Chelsea, even after the Club World Cup, are expected to be busy.
Just in another way, thank you, Michael. On the subject of Chelsea, Liam Delap on the bench at the Club World Cup game against LAFC this evening. It's Nicholas Jackson who leads the attack. Palmer, Neto, Madueke among those starting for Chelsea. 8 o'clock kickoff against LAFC, and Delap, the new man, on the bench for them this evening. We'll talk more about Chelsea a little later on the transfer show, and after the break we're going to be focusing on the future of one of Spain's star players, the Euros, Nico Williams, being linked with some of the big clubs in Europe. We'll have the latest on him. Welcome back to the transfer show. The window has reopened. Let's focus now on the future of one of Spain's Euro 2024 winners, Nico Williams, Athletic Club's Nico Williams. Michael, one of the star players in European football at the moment. So much fun to watch as well. And you've got some news reaching us from Germany.
Yes, from our colleagues in Germany, Bayern Munich have been informed that Barcelona are the front runners to sign Nico Williams from Athletic Club, according to our colleagues in Germany. Now, fresh negotiations have taken place in the last 20 hours, and it's thought Barcelona have the best chance to sign Williams, and that's despite we sort of get this in every window, potential registration issues with Barcelona. But despite that, Sky in Germany expect Barca to complete the transfer for the winger, and they will make those numbers work for Hansi Flick. Why would you want to leave Bilbao? I'll never know. It's a lovely place, Jules.
I suppose Barcelona and Munich aren't bad places to be to either. But I mean, there will be those saying, well, look, he's one of the stars of world football. The Premier League is the place to be. Would it be a surprise that he hasn't been lured over here?
In one respect, yes, because I think he's top class. He fits the profile of what every Premier League club is looking for. Young player, 22 years old, someone who's got huge potential, a match winner, a superstar, a potential global icon. But La Liga don't like letting their superstars leave the league. They will do everything they possibly can to help Barcelona within the rules to ensure he stays in La Liga. And obviously Sky in Germany saying that's his likely destination. We know that there's been an interest from Bayern Munich and Arsenal as well. However, they're not going to let one of the superstars walk away easily, particularly if there is a side like Barcelona that say, we want you. We know he has this brilliant relationship at Spain with Lamine Yamal, the future of Barcelona. We also know that they're friends off the pitch as well, and that will play a big factor in where he decides to go. So therefore, you can understand in that reason why, La Liga say, no, we have to make this work. We have to find a way to facilitate this financially for Barcelona. Not only can they sign him, but they can register him. The other reason why there won't be more clubs interested is because financially it will be a huge deal to make happen. He's on big money already. The contract will be huge if he were to sign for a new club. The registration fee, the bonuses, the signing on fee, the agency fee, all these things that you don't necessarily think of. This could be a package that costs 150 to 200 million over 5 or 6 years. So for any kind of club in the Premier League to do that kind of deal, you've got to have a lot of cash. And that's why potentially things are just stumbling when it comes to clubs going, well, can we invest that much money? Yes, we think he's the real deal and he's going to be brilliant in the future. But actually, it might be quite an expensive deal to make happen at this stage. But you never know down the line. The other thing to just mention as well, the sporting director Deco has said they also like Marcus Rashford and they also like Liverpool's Luis Diaz. So there's 2 other names as well as Nico Williams that's on that Barcelona list.
Interesting. We'll be keeping an eye on them all, of course. Let's just switch focus now to a domino effect surrounding left backs. One could impact on the other, and so on. Let's discuss the 3 players we're talking about. Let's start with the first domino, if you like. This is Adrien Truffert to Bournemouth, and this went through today, Michael.
Yeah, done deal. Bournemouth player confirmed around lunchtime. 11 million plus 3 million add-ons, a 5-year deal confirmed by Bournemouth. Very, very highly regarded left back. It just shows Bournemouth the way this football club have operated over the last few years. Great ownership as well. And again, it looks like another promising signing. Will he provide competition at left back or will he not? Let's go to Mark McAdam.
What are you saying?
You've got great context of Bournemouth.
Okay, I've covered Bournemouth for a few years now. And this is obviously a huge signing for them. I know immediately everyone will say, Milos Kerkez, does that mean he's going to head out the exit door at the Vitality Stadium? Probably looking likely. You're not going to have 2 top-class international left-backs in the same squad when you're not in Europe. So therefore, you believe this would make the way for Milos to head to Liverpool, which we'll talk about in a moment. On Truffert, 23 years old, he was amazingly also on the list of left-backs that Bournemouth were targeting when they signed Milos Kerkez. So he's a player that they'd scouted for a number of years before that list was created. They decided at the time to go for Kerkez, but they still liked the player. They've continued to watch and monitor him over the last couple of years as well. So they've actually got a database and a long period of time of watching his development and progression. So therefore, they know a lot about the player. And that's why they decided to act quite quickly. I think 11 million for a France international with a few add-ons is exceptional business, and they've got it done nice and early in the window. In May this year, he made his 150th Ligue 1 appearance. He's been a massive player at Rennes, and not only is he an important starter for the team, he's been made captain as well. So Bournemouth have signed captain material, and we know what that brings. When you're a captain, it means you're a good voice in the dressing room. You're a good person that people look up to. You've got those leadership qualities that are important on and off the pitch. The fact that Bournemouth have got that has been brilliant. Not only is he a robust player, technically he's very good. He's very good going forward. Ren likes to play a back three, and he's played as a left wing back. So not only can he play as a conventional left back, but when you're a left wing back, you've got to get forward. You've got to get to those advanced positions, and your quality in and around the box is so much more important. Bournemouth believe he'll also be a goal threat as well, which could be really important. You saw Milos Kerkez come up with a couple of important goals. So not only does he bring that, but his character and profile off the pitch is something that Bournemouth were excited about. Really good guy. All the references they got on the player were exceptional. He fits into the mould and profile of what they've been doing in transfer windows over the course of the last few years. So Bournemouth are really excited about this player. And they also believe that whilst he's had a little taste of international football with France, they believe Bournemouth can give him the platform to go and challenge someone like Luca Digne and be the #1 left back for France. So therefore, this could be a really exciting signing, and hopefully, you know, maybe in 2 or 3 years' time, we might be talking about Adrien Truffert going to another side. Bournemouth won't like me for saying that, but their recruitment has been so good over the last few years that that's exactly what's happening. Players are going to Bournemouth, they're getting put in the shop window, they're developing, they're improving, and then they're moving on.
And that's exactly what happened, of course, with Kerkez, who now looks like he could be off to Liverpool for a lot more than the 11 million that Bournemouth have paid for Truffert. And then you ask the question, well, what would that mean for Andy Robertson, who's been linked with a move to Atletico Madrid and the chance to link up with Diego Simeone? They're a match made in heaven, maybe? So says European football expert Kevin Hatchard.
Make a left back in a lab for Simeone and you come out with Andy Robertson, I think, because what he loves is he loves experienced guys, competitive guys, guys who are winners. And that's what Andy Robertson is. You look at his career at Liverpool, he's won pretty much everything there is to win. And I think you look at what Kieran Trippier did at Atletico, he became a really important cog in their title-winning machine there. And Simeone absolutely did not want to let him go when he went. So I would put Andy Robertson in that similar category, somebody who's got lots of Premier League experience, real competitor. I think Simeone would love him.
Right, let's move from that left-back dominoes to all things Crystal Palace. You've got a bit of news for us, Michael?
Yeah, Crystal Palace expected to announce the signing of Walter Benitez in the next few days. He's a goalkeeper, passed the medical, I understand, over the weekend. He's 32-year-old. He's left PSV at the end of last season, so he should be a Crystal Palace player and will go up against Dean Henderson. It's going to be, hopefully for Palace fans, a very, very enjoyable season if they can stay in the Europa League.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, and they're preparing for next season now. There's still a bit of a question mark over that, but what a year they've had. How much work now needs to be done by this man to prepare them for what they hope will be a crack at Europe next season?
Oliver Glasner is ultra ambitious. He just wants to push on, push on, push on. Steve Parish is aware of that, and they're trying to get the quality of player for